Welcome back to the channel, everyone. And man, all I can say is, where has the time gone? In this video, we've been going over the 6-month review. It's already been 6 months into ownership of my 2016 Shelby GT350. Wow, it's crazy, man. I remember the day I took delivery of this car. I remember the day we did the first modifications, and we're already 6 months deep and almost 6,000 miles deep into this car as well. If you guys enjoy the content, want to stay up to date with the build, make sure you drop a like in the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on those post notifications, and I'm gonna be going over everything that pretty much has happened with this car, and if it is worth it to you to pick up a Shelby GT350 here in 2023. So here it is, man, the GT350. Hoping the wind isn't too bad. It always gets windy every single time I come out to record a video of this style, but man, it's been a while. I haven't done too much to the car, just for the fact that you don't have to do too much with these to actually, you know, enjoy them. Well, honestly, you don't have to do anything with these cars to enjoy them. They are pretty damn good in the factory form, and that's something that I really do enjoy about the GT350, and part of the reason why I decided to go ahead and pick one of these up, because this is actually the first S550 Mustang that I've driven and the first S550 Mustang that I've owned. So I went straight from a new edge Mustang to an S550, a GT350 specifically, because I wanted a car that could check off all the boxes, and I will go ahead and explain what those boxes were in this video. Now, before anybody asks, no, this car is not stock. I do have quite a bit of bolt-ons done to the car, but not really a lot of bolt-ons. The essentials done. I have stainless works, catless, long tube headers. I have the OEM Borla catback exhaust with the resonator deleted. I have a JLT Cold Air Intake, which may or may not be doing anything, and I do have the Ford Performance dual catch cans, which are a great upgrade no matter if you decide to modify your car or keep it stock. That's pretty much all I've done in this car. I don't really plan on doing too much more as far as the bolt-on route go. I think that's honestly all you need. I'm not gonna go ahead and port the intake manifold. I'm not gonna go ahead and swap out the intake for the new Holley high ram setup or the CJ. Pretty much the way you see the car right now is how it's gonna be until I do go ahead and boost it, which is gonna be in the near future, because I'm personally very satisfied with the way the car is performing in its current state. And obviously it is tuned, but it is tuned on E85, which really does wake up these Coyote variant motors. All right, so we're behind the wheel, man. It's very simple to drive this car. This is probably one of the easiest cars I've ever learned how to drive. Pretty much, I've been driving manual before this one, but again, this is the first S550 Mustang that I've actually driven. So it took like maybe a 5-minute learning process, and I understood how to drive the car. Like, that's how easy these newer Mustangs are to drive. I mean, coming from a new edge Mustang and a 2013 Scion FRS, believe it or not, even though this car makes a lot more power than those, this is a hell of a lot easier to drive. So we're gonna go ahead and get a start up. I'm actually gonna start the car up in the fun mode, and I might actually have to go get gas this video because we're at 48. I might have to go get gas, but we're gonna go ahead and start this car up. I mean, even with the long tube headers, I mean, it's not bad at all. Not obnoxious, you know what I'm saying? Not crazy. I'm sweating like crazy though. It's like 100 degrees outside, but overall, I think it sounds pretty damn good, man. The long tube headers really kind of gives this voodoo the sound I believe it deserves. These cars sound amazing stock, but the headers, man, the headers really do go ahead and wake it up. It really does go ahead and wake it up, and I recommend every GT350 R owner to go ahead and get some long tube headers. because you definitely won't be disappointed. If you keep the factory exhaust, it's gonna sound amazing. I mean, I have like an OEM plus, I would say, exhaust, but honestly, I think it sounds good with the factory exhaust. Now, honestly, I think it sounds better with the factory exhaust, not with this Borla option, but this was already on the car when I did get it, and I mean, I like the sound enough to the point where I'm not gonna go ahead and buy, you know, a factory exhaust for the car. So I'm just gonna live with this. It's perfectly fine in my personal opinion. The car drives like stock with these modifications. This car on the dyno made around 520 wheel horsepower with this setup, and you guys can tell from the downshifts, I mean, it sounds amazing. No rev match downshifts. These cars don't come with rev match, at least this model doesn't. I think the 2018s come with rev match, correct me if I'm wrong, but just for a driver's car, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Rev match downshifting helps out on the track, but just as like a street driven car that you want to enjoy, I feel like automatically like rev matching it yourself is kind of part of the experience, man. I mean, it's always nice when you get that perfect rev match and you get like the nice little burble, not like, you know, the obsessive burble you get from actually getting a tune for it, but like when it does it naturally, you know, that's when, you know, everything does hit, man. So everything does hit. Pull up to the gas station real quick. Man, like the little pops you get, is so satisfying with this car. So satisfying. Now right now on the E85 setup, the way I drive it, and I don't really even be running this car as hard as I used to at this given point. I will explain why in the video, but at this given point, I'm getting about 13.5 miles per gallon on E85, which, I mean, I ain't gonna really say that's good. That's pretty bad, but at the same time, you know, it is a car on E85, and I mean, these cars, you're not really supposed to care about the miles per gallon here. It's not a daily driver, at least for me, it's not. So I really don't care. Whenever I take this car out, I just want to enjoy it, so the miles per gallon is kind of irrelevant for me. I'm actually gonna be really excited to go ahead and swap out the Sync 1 calculator for the Sync 3. Definitely something that I should have been done, but I felt like there were some more important mods to go ahead and take care of first. Those being, I mean, the headers and E85 setup. Because this miles per gallon, that's kind of what's important, man. Obviously the infotainment's, you know, woo, get a nice pop. That's what I'm talking about, man. The miles per gallon, it ain't really doing like that with the stock exhaust. I mean, it does, but for the most part, like with the headers E, it's a whole nother animal. I mean, just driving around regularly, we got another pop. Just driving around regularly, this car is just so much fun to drive. Ooh, got some more pops right there. I mean, it's a whole experience and a half, man. Over there too. Hell yeah. Now I know a lot of you guys are gonna be wondering, because this is a Generation 1 Voodoo, and I do have some modifications done to it. Does this car consume oil? And the answer is no. I check this oil very, very regularly. I check this oil every 400 miles, 350, 400 miles, depending on if I drive it. I actually have been driving this car quite a bit recently. I've been going on a lot of like 100 to 150 mile like trips, round trip. So I've been putting on, there's a Mustang over there, I heard that. Let me go ahead and roll my windows up so y'all can hear me. This is actually kind of an important discussion here. I've been putting on a lot of 100, 150 mile trips, round trip recently, like at least twice a week. So I have been checking my oil like every 350 miles, 400 miles. It has been on average 100 to like 105 degrees out here in Texas. So the conditions are, you know, less than desirable, but it is the summertime. So, you know, I'm trying to go ahead and enjoy the car as much as I can. And this car is not consuming any oil. Now I do change the oil every 2,000 to 2,500 miles, no matter how I drive the car. I like to go ahead and keep that oil interval very consistent. I know the book says you want to change it every 5K, but for a high revving V8 motor like this, I'm just more comfortable with changing it at every 2,000 to 2,500 miles, just to go ahead and keep all the fluids fresh and to make sure that we are good to go. Because here's my philosophy: if the folks with E85 Coyotes are changing their miles or changing their oil every 3K miles, the folks with boosted E85 Coyotes that are making like 850 wheel horsepower are changing their oil every 2,000 miles. There's no reason why somebody with, you know, an 8K RPM V8 is changing their oil at 5K. Like, that just don't really make sense to me. So that's why I go ahead and get everything done at that 2,500 mile marker, just to go ahead and keep everything consistent and everything fresh. Now I do go ahead and let this car fully warm up. I don't take it over 3,000 RPM until the oil temperature gets to around 180, 200 degrees. And on top of that, I don't necessarily go ahead and get on this car unless I have to. You know what I'm saying? I enjoy this car just like cruising it, not even beating on it. So I don't really, you know, beat it up and abuse it like a 16-year-old kid would with the car. You know what I'm saying? You gotta treat the car with respect. Downshifts, man. No rev match, this thing still sounds amazing. Now I do change this car with AMSOIL 5W50 full synthetic with the GT350 oil filter, the newer model oil filter. So I make sure that I go ahead and keep this car maintained well. Smooth linear power. That's what I love about this Voodoo, man. It's just smooth. Woo-hoo-hoo. Right there. All right, now I did buy this car with 10,800 miles on it. It currently has 16,000, you know, 670 on it. So I have been putting quite a bit of miles on it. Because I do live in Texas, a lot of those miles are going to be highway miles, but I do have about maybe, I'd say, 1,000 to 1,500 miles of just like straight beat up, especially, you know, during that Texas 2K time. and shortly after that, I was going ahead and racing this car pretty hard. You know, multiple 8,500 RPM shifts. I mean, 2nd through 5th gear, you know, going 150 plus miles an hour. I was enjoying the car. I was getting my money's worth. Let me tell you that. And I was pleasantly surprised with how effective this 5.2 is with modifications. It was a lot quicker than I thought. But obviously, when you do go ahead and upgrade the horsepower and torque on a stock clutch, problems are going to happen. Now, this clutch does actually start to slip at the top of 3rd gear, and it slips in 4th gear, and it completely slips in 5th gear under watt. So currently, I have not been going ahead and racing the car. I've just been cruising it. I've been enjoying it, and it's been like that for a couple months now. Now, I'm gonna be upgrading the clutch, but I'm trying to do everything around the same time when I do go ahead and boost the car. If I do decide to go to Mustang Week this year, I'm going to, I thought about this, I actually probably will have to put the clutch in before I go to Mustang Week, because I definitely don't want to have a clutch failure at Mustang Week, because that's like well over 1,000 miles away, and the tow for a, you know, non-operating vehicle at that distance is 100% going to be more than what I paid for the clutch and the install. So I'm definitely gonna go ahead and get that swapped out just as a precaution. But the car still drives, you guys can see here. I mean, I did a little bit of a pull right there. I'm still treating the car with respect, but for the most part, you're definitely gonna want to go ahead and upgrade the clutch if the car does have prior miles on it when you do go ahead and put some power down. Now, some people get lucky, some people don't. I was one of those guys that, you know, unfortunately didn't get lucky with the stock clutch. I mean, it worked for a little bit. It worked for about, I'd say, maybe 1,000 miles of beat up, and then it started to slip. So, you know, I got some usage out of it, and I can't really complain. I got some usage out of it. I was able to take out, you know, quite a bit of cars I didn't think I was gonna take out before the clutch started to completely slip. So I'd say, you know, it did a pretty good job, considering the fact that this car, you know, is effectively making what, like 70 horsepower more than it does stock. So I think that the stock clutch did pretty good. But as far as mechanical issues, that's the only issue that I have had with this car, is just going to be the clutch within the 6 months of ownership. Now, something else that's actually recently happened with this car, which is kind of unfortunate, and I'm currently baking in the car right now, is I think my AC condenser went out. Now, this was just completely out of random. I didn't know that these Ford AC condensers on like the 15 through like 17 model Mustangs, I think they actually do go bad on the newer ones too. Those actually like have a tendency to go bad. So currently the car does not have AC. Luckily, this is not a daily driver. Luckily, when I do drive this car, 99.9% of the time the windows are rolled down, so it's not nearly as bad. Now, ironically, as I say, I'm not bothered by the heat. My GoPro overheated because of the excessive heat. I just think that's kind of funny, but for the most part, those are gonna be all the issues I've had with this car, man. This car has been enjoyable since the day I got it. It checks off all the boxes that I wanted to go and have when I decided to pick up an S550 Mustang. Something that I really wanted in a Mustang was something that I could enjoy stock if I wanted to go ahead and keep it 100% stock. And if I wanted to do minor modifications to it, I would enjoy it with minor modifications done to it. Because for me personally, when I do buy cars, I typically heavily modify them. I always go ahead at some point, add force induction. Sometimes I go ahead and, you know, reinforce, you know, the engine's internals. I do a lot of things to my cars, and the GT350 was one of those cars where I felt, and I knew, and I still believe this 6 months later, if I was to leave it stock, I'd still be very, very satisfied. And I don't really think, you know, there was any other Mustang, or very few cars in general like that, that I could have bought from the factory that I could have enjoyed you know, in the bone stock configuration. So that's why I went ahead, you know, and picked up this car. Now this is going to be a track pack GT350, so it has all the coolers. I pretty much added in all the other, you know, amenities from some of the other models. The only thing that I have left to do is obviously to switch out the head unit, but for the most part, you know, I'm really enjoying this car, man. I recommend anybody that's looking for, you know, a true driver's car, something they can get in and they can smile and just, you know, not regret their purchase, to pick up a GT350. You know, Gen 1 or Gen 2. Obviously, if you can drop that, you know, 70K, which is crazy how much those are costing. If you can drop that 70K, you know, get a 2020 or a 2019, but at that price point, I would probably try to get, you know, the latest model, the 2020. But Gen 1, you know, so far, you know, so good. Knocking everything, so far so good. You're just gonna have to go ahead and make sure that, you know, you maintain it and you're doing your oil changes, you know, shit, I'd say at least every 3K miles. Let the motor warm up and, you know, treat the car with respect, and you'll overall, you know, be rewarded with it. Because I mean, every time I get on this car, I mean, I'm literally just driving it regularly right now. Like, I'm literally driving it like a grandma right now, and, you know, it feels great. It feels great, just simply downshifting it, and then it's like, all right, there we go, there's the voodoo we love. And just the looks too, man. This car just looks mean. I mean, it looks mean, it sounds mean. It's just something that I really enjoy. Now, another good handling car you could, you know, pick up if, you know, you did want to go ahead and get a GT350. It's obviously going to be a Camaro ZL1 1LE, a C7 Grand Sport, a Mach 1 handling package. Those are all great options as well. It's just going to be dependent on, you know, what car you want to pick up in your price range, because you can get these GT350s from anywhere between like 55 to like shit 70K, and that's kind of like where all those other cars are, you know, priced as well. So it's just going to be pretty much picking your poison. Oh man, dude. Like, this car, it sounds incredible, bro. You don't have to be going fast in here to really enjoy it. That is something that I just love about the 350. And I'm on a Mickey Thompson in the back too, and it's still kind of, you know, relatively planted. If I had like Cup 2s, you know, I would have more confidence hitting these turns and whatnot, but I mean, that just kind of tells you how good these things are from the factory. Oh man. The sound deadening with these S550s is pretty crazy too. Like, it doesn't even sound that loud. I mean, it's loud, don't get me wrong, but inside the cabin, it's not really like, it's not really loud and obnoxious, if you know what I mean. Like, this is completely livable. Oh, more pops. Oh man. Just don't need active rev match with this thing, man. You don't. about this car, bro, I'm telling you. Something about this car, man. With the minor modifications that I've done to it, just headers, E85. I mean, this is technically like in a roll car format right now, and even just like driving it around, the handling is pretty damn good. Like I have a radial on the back. I don't even have a track tire. This is like quite literally like in its Texas 2K format, and it's still like, it's still effective around the turns. Now I do go ahead and plan on going ahead and swapping out the tires for something a little bit better for handling, because after having it for 6 months, I've learned that there's more to this car than just, you know, going in a straight line, which is good, because, you know, not a lot of cars will actually give you that feel, for at least for me, that is, because you guys can tell from the cars that I've, you know, owned and how I've modified my cars on the channel. Like I modify my cars for like straight just highway rolls, you know, just banging gears and just having a good time. But this car, like this, oh, I got that whiff E85. This is like the whole package. Like this car gets everything done that I want to get done, and like I have barely anything done to it. Like I've spent the least amount of money as far as modifications goes in a 6-month period on this car than I have on any other car. And like this is the fastest car that I've technically owned. The 99, obviously, you know, on paper should be a lot faster, but I haven't gotten on it yet. A lot quicker than the new Edge Mustang, a lot quicker than the FRS, and it rides a lot smoother too. And like I said, this just has headers and a cold air intake and an E85 tune, and the cold air intake may or may not be doing anything. So literally just headers and E85, you know, this car is just amazing. So that's my review of my GT350 6 months later, man. Still enjoying the car, just a ball of fun. So if you guys want to stay up to date with the build, make sure you guys drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, turn those post notifications. Got a lot of things coming for this car, man. Gonna be obviously putting in the Sync 3. We are going to be going ahead and doing some minor modifications, you know, the clutch, and then pretty much ready for boost, which will be coming very, very soon. So hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Deuces.